Hey guys, welcome to this week's vlog. One that I promised quite a while ago and didn't get around to. So we are going to do it this week. And that is, we're going to discuss how much it cost us to totally repaint the boat last year. So we did the blacking and we did the top. Every inch of OB was repainted last year. I'll put a link to the two series that this relates to, in case you want to go back and watch that if you haven't seen it. So a couple of caveats before we start. One, this isn't a shiny boat repaint. So we haven't gone for any of the lines or the detailing, and we haven't had the name put on her yet. So we've gone for a very plain matte finish, which I'll talk about later, and a bit of detailing with a different colour. So we haven't gone for shiny. That's what I'm trying to say. So the quote for a repaint, a shiny boat repaint with the with all the details that you'd commonly expect on a professional paint finish, ranges anything from 8 grand to 15 grand, I think I was quoted. So, and both, you know, saying that they could do the same thing for that sort of price. So for those of us that can't afford that, that is a hell of a lot of money to pay out for a paint job. Which is why we went down the self-painting route. So first thing we did was we went into Northwich Dry Dock for a week and we did the blacking. Now there are other things that arose from the blacking, and my only recommendations if you're going to black yourself is to make sure that you go somewhere where you're high enough off the ground where you can do your base plate as well. There's lots of people say, oh, you don't need to do your base plate and all that. I've read it all, I've heard it all, but if we hadn't done it this time, so we've been blacked twice before, and naively we've let other people do it. So it was blacked when we bought her after the survey, and it was blacked again 3 years later. Now both those instances, they only did the sides and it was only bitumen. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. We wouldn't have done that if we'd have known. We'd have got a definite on the base plate. Only now, with the experience that we've had, we've actually gone back into the survey, and where it says, you know, the hull's fine, don't worry, blah de blah, it does actually state in very small writing that full access to the hull was prohibited, and some of the waffle that essentially exonerated them from any responsibility if we went back and said, whoa, what about all this pitting? Anyway, that said, if you're going to black yourself, or if you're going to get blacked anywhere, make sure that they're raising it up and do the base plate. Because if you aren't doing your base plate and you're just doing your sides, and you're doing it in bitumen, I'm pretty confident you could do that very quickly. You could do that in 2 days. And we probably spent 5 days doing ours. And there was a little extra work, but that was only probably a day's worth of extra work. So we spent 4 days making sure it was a good finish. And I'm not confident that you get that unless you're doing it yourself. So that's our only tip. Do it yourself and make sure you can get to your base plate. So the blacking in total was which is pretty phenomenal, isn't it? So we had a week in the dry dock, which is essentially like being in a living museum. Ace place, cannot recommend the guys there highly enough. And the majority of that cost was the paint. So it's very good quality 2-pack paint, and we had to use a lot of it on the hull. So you'd probably, if your boat's in good condition, that undercoat cost would probably come down a little. So you could probably do it for, you know, 900, 850. So that's something else to bear in mind. We were a little exceptional in our costs because of the state of our base plate. So then we had a couple of weeks off, went for a little tour down the River Weaver, and then we went into the wet dock, again at Northwich Dry Dock. So if you've followed us for a while, you'll know that we did quite a bit of preparation before we actually went into the wet dock. So we used to be blue with cream lines, which is there were a couple of rust spots and things. So in the last 2 years, so 21, 22, we started to remove the paint from the roof, and we got like a third of the way. We've totally sanded down and treated all the rust spots on either side. We've sanded it back, but we didn't go back to bare metal on the sides because I don't think it warranted it. Even now you can see some of the coach line still, but yeah, at some point we'll be repainting her again, and at that point maybe we'll get rid of the coach lines, but I'm really not fussed about that. So a couple of things. We went for a matte finish, which I think because we were grey, so we were grey on one side for a while, then we went to grey on both sides while we, you know, when we had the time to sand and paint. So the Buzzweld Zinc 68 undercoat was pretty much what the boat was painted in for a year probably. The bonus of having it in that oxide finish was that if you needed to touch it up, it's really easy. If you spend thousands on a shiny finish and then have something happen to that, or a portion of that finish, and then to try and get back to that finish and make it, you know, blend it well, it's a lot of work and a lot of outlay. So we were thinking, you know, we need to do this and we need to do it so it looks good and it's a finish that we can easily maintain. I mean, that's essentially what governed our choices, is ease of maintenance and cost. So the outside paint wasn't cheap by anybody's standard, although it's gone up £25. So I bought that in 21, and doing my research and making sure I was linking to the right things for this vlog. That paint is now £198.99, so it's gone up 25 quid in 2 years. Make of that what you will, Tory Britain. So they were the things that governed our choices for paint. One of my biggest worries was finish, because even though it is matte, I didn't want it to be streaky. I mean, I've seen vans that have been done in matte finish, and you can see the roller marks and they look awful and blah blah. But we just painted her OB in standard foam rollers that you get from B&Q, and she's come out really well, which is due to a couple of things. I think we did the prep work pretty well, so it's quite a good surface to paint to, and the quality of the paint. So Paints for Trade Narrowboat enamel matte finish is what we used. I'll put all the details of everything that we used, although it comes up on the screen every now and then. I'll put them in the comments below. And if you've got any questions at all that you'd like to ask us about the experience, or any questions at all, whether it be about narrowboats or anything else, just put them in the comments below and I will get back to you, or shall get back to you. One of us will get back to you. I'll also try and get all this information in a blog on the website. So if you've never seen our website, please go to chrisandshell.co.uk. And I think that's it. I So we started, and the quotes were £8,000 to £15,000. So let's scrub off the £15,000, which is extortionate. And let's say it was going to be £8,000. So that is just for the painting of the top. So your blacking would be another grand, 1,200, based on what paint you're using and whether you're doing the hull. So all in all, we came in under £1,900, which I think is pretty phenomenal. I mean, everybody that's seen the boat since has said how well she looks, which is really satisfying. And the only thing to factor in is your time, our time. I mean, we took a week's holiday. Well, yeah, we took a week's holiday to do the blacking and another week to do the actual painting. And that's not taking into account all the time we spent beforehand getting her ready to be painted, which I think is an important factor. So the boat that was in the wet dock before we went in had been in there for 7 weeks because they went in to do everything. So I think that's also key. If you can get in to the wet dock primed and ready for paint, it's going to be a beautiful experience for you and a cheap experience for you. So the week in the wet dock was £350, which again, you know, to be in somewhere dry while you're doing your final finish, I think's, yeah, it's well worth it. It's well worth it if you're doing it yourself. Can't think of anything else. Let's just go and check in with my colleague to see if she can think of anything else about painting your boat.
I've got any cream on.
Hey? I think people want to know about the experience of painting a boat. They don't want to know whether you got your makeup on.
Yep.
You alright there, Bean?
Can I just go and put some cream on my face? I'm just deciding a cafe, you know.
Michelle.
Yes, Christopher?
What have you got to say about us painting the boat this year? Last year?
Last year, 2023.
Would you recommend doing it yourself to people?
Definitely recommend doing it yourself because you get to know your boat better. And it is cheaper. But, yeah, you've got to invest your own time. I would say that's the only caveat, isn't it? And you've got to be prepared when you're doing the exterior that the interior is going to get messy and you just got to live with it and just put up with it, and when it's all done you can have a good clean inside. The state of the boat inside was horrendous for quite some weeks, and yeah, I think that was a bugbear, but I just had to live with it.
Yeah, the dust and things.
The dust, yeah. And yeah, we had dedicated clothes that we just kept putting on that were covered in crap. The end result was brilliant and worth the mess.
Yeah, and I think you were surprised at how little it cost in total, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a bargain. As Chris said, the guys that were in the wet dock before us were there for 7 weeks, and I don't know how they did that. We were only in there for a week. And towards the end I wanted real daylight and air. I think the accumulation of like being in that environment and also paint fumes was a bit weird. Felt like we were in this odd little world for a while, so it was nice once we were out and she was painted.
So is there anything you'd like us to do differently if we were to do it again?
Well, you with that scablet was very scary. So, a bit more research on the correct equipment and perhaps doing that prior to going in.
Yeah, that would have saved us a lot of dust.
Yeah.
And a lot of shaking in the boat.
Yeah, that created a lot of mess. It was just frightening watching you with that big industrial bit of kit as well. I didn't like it.
I wasn't keen either.
No, it was awful. So yeah, bit more research on tools. But yeah, apart from that,
Yeah, I mean that
First time
handheld
round.
one, the one, you know, when we first got the roof done, the first third, if we'd have got the right teeth for that, it would have been alright. Just quickly, one thing I would say is definitely don't mess around with drill bit grinding attachments. Just get a 240 volt grinder and get the proper flapper sanding pads. Otherwise you'll be there forever getting the paint off. So yeah, go 240 volts, don't mess around with battery operated stuff because it just isn't powerful enough. So save yourself a lot of time. 240 grinder with the right attachments.
and can I just say, the correct PPE.
Oh yeah, there's the scar on my finger. I don't know if you can see that. Where I nearly lost my finger.
Yeah,
It was all the way on that.
yeah, we've seen them. But a certain gentleman likes to just get on with things and doesn't wear the correct PPE. I'm slowly getting there. So we had proper shoes on, even bought ear defenders this time. I never thought I'd see the day. So we're getting there. It's getting better. Being a good boy.
Right, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Alright. Thank you very much for watching, you beautiful lot. Hope you're all okay. And we'll see you next time. Take care, stay afloat, and love yourself.